Hey guys, so in this video I want to document the process of replacing valve seats on a motorcycle head such as this one. I already went ahead and removed the old valve seats on the exhaust side, and I believe this is a head from a 2013 Kawasaki KX250F. And what I'm doing right now is I've set up this head on this plate that's perfectly flat, and it's going to make it substantially easier for me to set up in our milling machine, so that before I install the new valve seats, I'm going to machine out these counter bores because I measured them, and near the bottom they're a little bit out of round. So to get a perfect press fit, I'm going to remachine these in our mill, and this is how I set up the head to do so. So here we are in the machine. I went ahead and set up the head. What I did first was I indicated in the head itself to make sure it is aligned along the x-axis, and what I did next was I set up both of these exhaust side counter bores, and they're already indicated in. I found the zero of both of them, and what this indicator is showing me now is that this hole is out of round and it is going to need to be remachined to get a proper interference fit with the valve seat itself. This side is going to be zero as well. And then the back side of this is going to show approximately the same thing, telling us that this hole is about 1,000 out of round. I set up each exhaust side counter bore on the G54 and the G55 axis, so when I program the machine, it's going to be able to bore both countersinks simultaneously, or one after another, without having to reset up anything. I'm going to employ our Citroen boring head. I hope, if it's not too big, it's going to be a close fit when I fit this 3/4 inch carbide boring bar in the center hole. I hope it clears, but if so, it should do me well. This boring head has made its money back and then some. I've bored many cylinders for various dirt bikes and motorcycles and jet skis with it already. So anyways, I'll be back in a moment when I have the tool set up and we will see the machine running. So we're back at the machine, and yesterday I was saying I was going to come in with this boring bar, but I realized that to really be certain that this surface here, the floor, is perfectly perpendicular with this wall, the best way would be to machine that. So I have this end mill loaded up here, and I figured that it could do the wall and the floor at the same time. While a boring bar will guarantee a perfectly concentric hole, this end mill and this CNC machine will do a very accurate job as well, perfectly good enough for what we need here. And as you can see in this counter bore, I've already begun machining, and I'm removing minimal material, and you can see that since it did not touch on this wall here, that this counter bore is not perfectly straight. So we're gonna watch this cut and you'll see what it's all about. So I have the program loaded up here, I have my tool set up and the work offset set up, and all that's left to do is, sorry, not power on, but cycle start. And I have my, you can speed up the rapid. Give it a little WD-40 for good measure. can watch the cut. And as you can see, it still has not perfectly cleaned up the wall, but that's okay.
Все, четко. Ну все замечательно зашла. Давай следующую сразу, Макс, сразу давай.
So, both valve seats have been fitted. Firstly, we heated up the head to approximately 400 degrees Fahrenheit to open up the counterbore, and we froze the valve seats themselves to shrink them down that the interference fit might be as minimal as possible when we were fitting them in there. We hammered or pressed them in using this tool that we made, which works by simply aligning itself and the valve seat perfectly in line with the valve guide bore and creating a good straight interference fit when we go to fit them. The next step is we're going to install all 4 new valve guides. We're going to have them honed, and after that, the valve seats are going to be ready to be cut by our neway cutters, which will be used to create the geometry upon which the valve itself is going to sit upon and seal the rest of the head, or the cylinder and the head, to create the nice good compression which any 4-stroke motorcycle or small engine relies upon, or any 4-stroke engine relies upon in operation. Now we are in the step of cutting the valve seat geometry in the process of rebuilding this 4-stroke motorcycle head. And as you can see, I've completed both exhaust side valve seats and moved on to the intake side. To cut the valve seat geometry, I'm using these nice neway valve seat cutters, and basically they come with this or a set of corresponding mandrels which work to position the cutter in line with the valve guide, so you can cut the valve seat in a manner which is in line with the valve itself. So this is a 3-angle valve job. I'm going to start with a 30-degree cutter, but before I do that, what I like to do as a near completion of the valve seat cut, I mark out the area which I'll be cutting with this Dicom layout fluid, and once it dries up, which it has, you take your first cutter, in this case it's a 30-degree, and put it onto the mandrel. You want to use a little bit of light machining oil on the cutters, but this is just a visual because it is a two-handed job. But just to help you guys understand how it works, you would give the cutter a few turns by hand, applying a light medium amount of pressure, not too much. It's a thing you get a feel for. But once you have done that, you remove the cutter and you can see where the cut has been made. So with this valve seat, since we replaced the valve guides, there's still, I think, quite a bit of material to remove to line it all up. Maybe not quite a bit, but definitely some. So since I've already cut the 45, I'm coming in with a 60-degree cutter just to show you guys what it looks like, and you give that a few turns. It's still a little bit rough because it's only now beginning to make contact all around, and you'll see in a second what I mean. But basically, you give it a few turns of that guy, and here you can see where the 60-degree cutter has made its cut. And as you move around, you can see how uneven that is, showing us how much out of line the valve guide is with the valve seat itself. And that goes to show that it is imperative that you resurface or recut your valve seats whenever you replace your valve guides if you want a good performing tight sealing head. So anyways, I'm going to continue removing material until things begin to line up, but once I near completion or completion, to verify that my valve seat geometry all looks good, as it does here, you can see where the last 45-degree cut I made to show you guys it's nice and round and even all around. To make sure that it's sitting in the right place with accordance to the valve, I take a valve that's going to be installed into this valve seat, I put it into the valve guide, and this is also a two-handed job, but I'll give it my best. And you just give it a couple of these guys. You want to make sure not to rotate the valve while you do that, as to not skew your results. But basically, as you will see in a moment, you can see where along the surface it is sealing, and exactly what we want, right in the middle, even all the way around. A beautiful valve job, which is going to work towards a very well performing head. So that's that. I'm going to finish cutting all these valve seats. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to be assembling this head. I'm not sure if I'm going to record that, but after that I'll be shimming the cams that come with it. And yeah, so here we're reaching completion of rebuilding this 4-stroke motorcycle head. Stay tuned as I continue to record. Thank you very much. So here we're nearing completion of this motocross bike head rebuild. The valve seats are cut, the valve guides are honed, the mating surface has been resurfaced, and now we are ready to begin the valve train assembly. So I have all my parts here. It's a bit of a mess, but we're going to be using this Permatex engine assembly lube, mostly to make sure the valves are lubed up inside of the valve guides. And I have nobody to film the process, so I'm going to work through this and I'm going to update you guys as I go. The assembly process is going to require my full attention. I laid out the parts here, and I'm going to go through them really quickly just so you guys may have an understanding of what goes into the assembly of a valve train. So the first thing you start off with here is this spring seat, which is a little seat made out of steel, and it serves to protect your aluminum head from being worn down by the spring itself. So I already put it in here. All you do is simply slide it down, make sure it's flush against the bottom surface around your valve guide. And nextly, what you want to install is this little oil seal, and this just serves from sealing off the combustion side of your head, or this side of the head, so that oil will not leak through your valve guides into the combustion area, which when your valve guides are in spec, it shouldn't either way, but this is how these motocross heads are produced. So to install that, you take the oil seal and you fit it around your valve guide on that little, I guess around the little nub, and you want to make sure to press it down and that you put it all the way in, that it sits in there very secure. After that, what you want to go ahead and do would be, you would want to have the valve installed already, but I'm just going to talk you guys through it. Next comes the spring. You want to make sure that the side of the spring that is more tightly wound, the coils are more tightly wound, goes to the bottom of the head. And after that would come the valve spring retainer, which basically will compress and hold the valve spring in place. I'm going to put in this valve real quick. 1 second. So I installed the valve, and here where the tricky part comes in, you will need a valve spring compressor tool, because after that, here are these little retainers which will basically serve to keep all of that held down. So what you would do, you take the tool around here, and it's like a little C-clamp type of deal. It goes around, presses on the valve from that side, compresses all of this down, and while it's compressed, you install these clips. So I'm going to do that, and then I will be back. Here we have it. The valve train has been assembled, and essentially this head rebuild is now complete. I still have to shim the valves, but that's already a different process I would consider, so it will not be a part of this video. But this head has had the valve guides replaced, exhaust side valve seats replaced, valve seat geometry recut all around, the valve trainer replaced, and the head has been surfaced. Here in this process, what you would want to do is make sure that your valves are sealing properly as they should. In theory, if you followed the process of locating the valve seat against where the mating surface of the valve seat is against the valve itself, and you did that properly, everything should seal up just fine. I have verified this using a liquid method, which basically fill this area up with water, soapy water, and you apply a compressed air on each side, on each port, and you look for any air leaks. But an easy visual to do would be shine a bright light here and take a look inside each port. It's hard to see on camera, but you can get a good look when you look with your eye and you look for any light, which there is none. These valve seats are sealing very well on both sides. So yeah, thank you guys for watching my step-by-step, mostly, of rebuilding a 4-stroke dirt bike head. and stay tuned for my future videos, how-tos, manufacturing and small engine work alike. And if you guys need any work like this done, whether it's a cylinder rebuild, a head rebuild, or even a bottom end rebuild, I'd be happy to work with you. Just send me an inquiry and I would make sure to get back to you. Anyways, if you guys would hit the like button, helps me a lot. Subscribe if you will. But until next time, have a blessed day. Thank you.